Hola y bienvenidos a este video sobre el coronavirus en español. Hello and welcome to this video lesson about coronavirus in Spanish. So we're going to be looking at all the vocabulary you need to know to understand what is going on in the world with coronavirus. So let's get started. Primero vamos a mirar algunos nombres. So first of all, we're going to look at some nouns. You may think, that's a bit odd, nouns, nombres. Nombre means name, doesn't it? Well, yes it does, but nombre also means nouns. So after all, nouns are names we give to things. So the first one we're going to look at is la corona, since it's in the name, coronavirus. So la corona actually means the crown. And you might find that a bit odd that someone decided to name this virus after a crown, but they decided to call it like that because of the spikes on the virus, the protein spikes, which they decided look a bit like spikes on a crown. El próximo nombre que vamos a mirar es la pandemia. So you can probably guess what this one means, the pandemic, la pandemia. But notice it doesn't end in C, it's not la pandemica, like you might think it would be, but la pandemia. And also people tend to talk a lot about la crisis. So that just means the crisis. This is obviously just one type of crisis. In the past we've had la crisis económica, so the economic crisis, y la crisis inmobiliaria, and that was the housing crisis. That's a bit of a long word, don't worry about it. So, other words that you might find to do with coronavirus are los casos. That means the cases, so not the suitcases, but rather the cases of the virus, los casos. And you can also use this word, caso, to talk about the hypothetical case. If you say that's not the case, you can say no es el caso. El próximo nombre es la curva. So as you can probably imagine, this means the curve. La curva. Y las cifras are the figures, so like the numbers. When you're looking at numbers in a sort of scientific context, they're often referred to as figures. So las cifras are the figures. With a Spanish accent, it would be las cifras, because the C is like a TH sound, cifras. With a Latin American accent, las cifras. Y el próximo es la expansión del virus. So this means the spread of the virus. So it might help you to remember this by thinking about the expansion. If it's spreading, it's expanding. El próximo nombre es el distanciamiento social. So social distancing. So with a Spanish accent, that would be el distanciamiento social. And with a Latin American accent, el distanciamiento social. Our next noun is going to be la comunidad, so the community. La comunidad es cada vez más importante. Community is more and more important, so it's something that's become really important as the world deals with this challenge. El médico o la médica is a doctor. You sometimes come across el doctor or la doctora, especially in South America. So that's our doctor. Doctor's obviously always very important, but maybe some of us are coming to realize that a bit more with this crisis that we're facing. El enfermero or la enfermera is the nurse. So with each of these you've got a masculine form and a feminine form, depending on whether it's a man or woman who's doing that role. The nurse, el enfermero. Entonces aquí tenemos una médica y un enfermero. So here we have a woman doctor and a man nurse. Los trabajadores clave. So these are our key workers. Now I know normally in Spanish the adjective has to agree with the noun that it's describing, and here we've got a plural noun, so you'd think it would be los trabajadores claves. But clave is a bit of a weird one, it's always just clave. It doesn't change from masculine, feminine, or plural singular nouns, it's always just clave. And that means key as an adjective, so key workers is clave, it's key, it's really important. Don't get it confused with the noun for an actual key that you open doors with. That one is llave. La mascarilla, the face mask. So again, something that's become really important as of lately. La mascarilla or la mascarilla. Now normally a mask, just any sort of mask, is una máscara, and that's where we get our word mascara from. But because it's a small mask, it only covers part of your face, this one is una mascarilla. Our next word, la cuarentena, which is the quarantine. And we've also got el confinamiento, the lockdown. So again, these sort of new words that have come into our vocabulary more than ever as the world is dealing with coronavirus. El gobierno, the government, y el ayuntamiento, the council. And el ayuntamiento is also the word for the town hall. So when you're reading the newspaper, if you read El País, a really good Spanish newspaper, you'll see loads of these words coming up as they talk about what the councils are doing, the governments are doing, people wearing face masks, key workers, doctors, nurses, etc. And this next piece of vocabulary is quite possibly the most important piece of vocabulary you'll learn in all of 2020, all of the year 2020. El papel higiénico, toilet paper. Literally hygienic paper, which is a bit odd because it's not really that hygienic. El papel higiénico. Ahora vamos a mirar algunos verbos. So now we're going to look at some verbs. Diagnosticar, to diagnose. If you think about it, if you've got a problem with your computer, you run a diagnostic. You're trying to diagnose the problem. Diagnosticar. Calcular, to calculate. There's been lots of calculating going on recently, scientific modeling and things like that. Aumentar, this means to increase. So you could say los casos han aumentado. The cases have increased. Or, as we're hoping will be the case, los casos han disminuido. The cases have decreased. So disminuir is our verb to decrease. Aplanar is to flatten. Tenemos que aplanar la curva. We have to flatten the curve. Y curar is to cure and to get better. So again, a really important verb to learn in these times. Okay, let's summarize this lesson with some short sentences, some phrases. So we've got our starter, en el año 2020 hay que. Now if you haven't come across hay que before, it means we have to. It means one has to. So it's not related to anyone, it's like a general one has to. If you know any French, it's like il faut. En el año 2020 hay que quedarse en casa. So in the year 2020, we've got to stay at home. One has to stay at home. It's necessary to stay at home. That's the sort of idea that hay que expresses. And you use it with the infinitive straight after, so you don't have to conjugate any verbs to use that. En el año 2020 hay que trabajar desde la casa. So in the year 2020, it's necessary to work from home. En el año 2020 hay que practicar distanciamiento social. In the year 2020, we've got to practice social distancing. En el año 2020 hay que llevar mascarilla. We've got to wear a face mask. Maybe not the case everywhere. En el año 2020 hay que hacer videollamadas, to make video calls. En el año 2020 hay que aplanar la curva. So in the year 2020, it's necessary to flatten the curve. So these are some of the sort of key phrases that we're seeing in the news, that we're hearing a lot, that people are talking about, and some really good phrases to learn in Spanish so you can understand some of the Spanish newspaper articles and things like that, and maybe speak to Spanish friends or Latino friends that you might have in other countries and see how they're doing, how they're getting on. So that's the end of today's coronavirus lesson. Some next steps you might want to do: stay at home, stay safe, and keep learning Spanish. Muchas gracias por ver este video y espero que te vaya muy bien con el español.